Hello, people of the YouTube. I'm here to glue and yammer so that I can try to sequence my life into a more cohesive image in my mind, if that makes sense. I like that phrase, if that makes sense, because no, sometimes I say stuff that really doesn't make sense, and I get that about myself. So I'm just gluing right now a couple of things into my journal that I use every day. I just do gluing, like no, I don't do anything with texture or anything that would make the book break. Just mostly writing, but sometimes I find things like these really awesome paintings and I want to put them somewhere. So I do. All right, and let's see, is there one more? Yes. So I hemmed and hawed and made a video that I did make one or two that I didn't use. It's like because I'm hemming and hawing over this thing, it's ridiculous. Just my life story is not that big of a deal, and if somebody can get something out of it, great. That's it. Let it go. So that's where I'm at. So we're going to start at the beginning. I'm going to glue, and I'm going to sequence my life. And you people can come along for the ride because you said you were interested. I asked, and you said you were interested. So I'm going to do something that I really, really love. And I decided to use the face-up camera just because it's a little more of like, I don't know, you're telling a story. I don't know if you need to see me just gluing scraps down. I say, you know what I'm saying? So, let's see. I'm going to put this one in here too. It says A History of Healing. So that's what I'm on. I'm on a healing adventure. I would say journey, but it's been way more adventurous than the word journey sounds peaceful to me. Sounds peaceful. My life has not been peaceful. It's been a lot of things. It has not been peaceful. It is peaceful now. I live a very peaceful and blessed life, but like everyone, I've been through whatever it is that life threw at me and had to figure it out. That's at least what I thought until I got an individualized personal relationship with God. And once that happened, everything in my life has changed. And I've experienced peace for what I believe is for the first time in my life. Just starting basically like around October of this year. I drank it all. My mouth does get dry when I talk too much. Is that a damn... That's a damn ladybug. Oh, man, it went on my lip. Oh, these things. Seriously, dude, take a hike. Oh, they taste bad, man. They taste bad. Ew, dude. I'm a house camper. That's what we call it. House camping. I swear. These old windows. If you're new to me and you don't know me, I live on a 100-acre farm that's been in my partner John's family it was his grandmother and her sister bought it, so 3 generations. And also my man just retired last June. Those are 2 things that you might not know about me. All right, so I am going to use just this painter's masking paper. It's my favorite thing to do. I haven't done this in so long. I'm just going to get myself something to put my Mod Podge on. I love this bottle I have for it, but you know what? I'll just put it on here. Why not? It's not going to hurt me. It's just a book page, right? Use the book page. All right. And so I have this fabulous, awesome brush. And I have regular Mod Podge in this container. And I have fabric Mod Podge in this container because I have both paper scraps and fabric scraps that I'll be working with. I'm going to start with the paper scraps. I'm going to get this over here. This is my word of the year from last year. Gentle. I love the word of the year. I really use it throughout the whole year. That is something from this community that I have been so grateful to have gained. All right, let's see. I'm just going to put this here and get this little thing out of here and get us started. Let's get us started. So I was born June 12th, 1977, because where else do we start a story but at the beginning? Yeah, right? It's the beginning of the story. So I was born to Mary and Paul, both raised Irish Catholic and not born in New Jersey, but moved to New Jersey when they were like 11 and 12. And my mother's family was what you would call high society, and my father's was middle class. So they came from very different worlds, and they're also just were very different people. That they did get a divorce when I was 7. That you can hear my entire life story, and I will tell you to the day I die, that was the single most devastating well, I have 2. There's 2 really devastating things that I had in my life, and truly that was one of them, you know. But I also know they couldn't have stayed married. So, anyway, um I was born, I had a twin. I had a twin. She was stillborn. And so as I got older and I realized what that kind of meant, that I might have had a twin, it really kind of upset me because I was like, you know, all the thing that all the suffering that I experienced is emotional suffering, not physical suffering. So it's a little, I don't know if you haven't emotionally suffered like most of your life, it's hard, I think, for other people. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. It's so hard to know anyone else's experience, right? Like that's the thing. This is only my one experience, you know. This is it, you know. And yeah, there's similarities with some people who have been through some of the things that I've been through. But not, you know, 100%, you know, everybody's different. Everybody's unique. That's the thing. God made us all individuals, you know? So as I said, I was born, in 1977, and then my parents had joint custody of us, so it was pretty chaotic. We would go 3 days to one parent's house, 4 days to the other, that kind of thing. It was you know, I mean, it just wasn't ideal, right? So we know that, but it impacted me in a far deeper way than it ever impacted my brothers, the divorce of my parents. um it just, I was always a more emotional person. It affected my brother Christopher in a way that was, you know, almost positive because for him, because he and my father never really um, could groove together. And so he would spend more time with my mom. He was older. Anyway, so that was that. And then I went to the elementary school where my mother was she was a teacher. And then as I got to be a 4th or 5th grade, I think it was 4th, she became the vice principal. And that was not fun. It wasn't fun to have your parent as and I think it's weird when I honestly, personally, I've been in the education system for a long time. I worked there for a long time. I don't think it's ideal for you to work in the same school where your kid goes to school, just from personal experience of my mom. And not only that, she knows everybody at the high school too. She knew everybody at the middle school. You know, it was like so I lived a probably really sheltered life, I think, in a lot of ways. My father would expose us to a lot of different things, but my mother, she was more like, um, I don't know. Just they're so different. My parents, just so different. Just they had just such different priorities and values. I think that's why they couldn't stay married. Their values were so different. You know, my father valued, he did value image. He did value. He had a relationship with God that was really solid, and I knew that. But he did, yeah, yeah. I'm saying, well, then I get to talking. I'm like, oh, now I'm talking about my parents and stuff, and that's why this is glue therapy. See, it's therapy. You start talking about stuff that you maybe need to say while you're gluing. And maybe you don't even have to ever show anybody the video. You could just do it for yourself. And then you listen back to it and you hear yourself and you learn about yourself in a whole new way. That's what these glue sessions are for me. I get to listen to me talk to you, YouTube people. But even if I never posted it, I still got to get in the flow with the glue and hear what I was trying to say to myself. It's almost like I'm talking to myself. And you can't say things like that when you have a diagnosis. They'll be bringing an ambulance, people. You got to understand. And I know I'm telling you right now, I know I have healed. And that's healed, past tense, healed. Um, when I'm making jokes about something. Took me some time to make jokes about this stuff though. Like serious. You know who makes a joke about it right away though? I'll be a days out of the hospital and Romeo will be making jokes right away. I'm like too, and he's gonna go too soon. I'm like, yeah, too soon. I got out last Friday. Take the jokes down a notch. No, I don't know what I would do without that man. I really don't actually. I have not a clue. Not a clue. So where were we? Let's see on the I'm trying to do the life timeline so that I can picture it. So I was 7. Okay, and so then when I was 16, my father moved for business down to Alabama. I was devastated. He was not living that close to us at that point. He was about 45 minutes away. Um, but my father valued money, and he worked really hard, and he earned lots and lots of money in his lifetime, and he shared so much of his money with his children. I mean, he was so generous, and his grandchildren. My father put my daughter through college. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of dad I had. He was not thrilled when he found out I was pregnant because I was 19. And I guess that's where the story goes next. At 19, my high school sweetheart and I we were down in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, having a way too good of a time. This was after my freshman year of college. And it was me and my best friend and my boyfriend and myself. And it was a really cool experience, people. We had done this thing. It was like all different people from all over the world came and we lived in this house in Myrtle Beach. It was just so cool. We didn't know them or anything. And it's kind of like that show, The Real World, There was guys from Texas. There was people from Ohio. There was women. I lived with two chicks from Scotland and 3 chicks from Ireland. It was so cool. Man, that was really cool living with those Irish girls. They were funny, and man, could they drink alcohol. Whew, let me tell you, it is not a joke. So anyway, I ended up becoming pregnant, and there was Hurricane Bertha, right? I don't know how in depth I should get with the story. Like, I don't know. Hurricane Bertha came along. Okay, I guess that's and I had a Jeep, a Wrangler with a soft top, and I made my boyfriend and my best friend get in that Jeep and drive up the coast, following right behind and being sometimes very close inside of, not like literally inside of, but the hurricane. We were like driving through hurricane winds and all that in a Jeep. And my girlfriend, she she brought so many clothes and so many shoes. She was like, that kind of girl. Not anymore. Hasn't been for years, but she was back then. We were 18, and no, 19. We were 19, and I knew I was pregnant. I didn't take a test or anything. I just knew it. It wasn't because I missed my period. Nothing. I just knew it. I just felt it. I'll never be able to explain it to anybody, but I literally just felt it. And when I felt that I was pregnant, I knew I had to get home to my mother because I knew I needed help. I was like, I need to see my mother about this one. And so I went ahead and told my mother, and my mother was the coolest cucumber ever. We were driving right through the town where I grew up, and she just didn't say a word. I said, I think I'm pregnant. My dad was on me about this vacation that he wanted me to go on, and he was really hounding the crap out of me about it. He always liked to do big family vacations, which is nice. It is, but I was in a crisis, and the last person I wanted to tell was him. Let me tell you, I was not even trying to tell my father I was pregnant at 19. Not even, please, not even close. Anyway, so she just pulled over. She pulled the car right over. We were driving almost exactly in front of the pharmacy, and she just put the blinker of her car on, pulled right over, didn't say one word, which is not like my mother. She's chattier than I am, if you could possibly believe it. And she went in, got a pregnancy test, got 2 super blow pops. And, then she was really great. She was awesome about it. And I wasn't awesome about it. And I was devastated and scared, and I didn't want to tell my dad. And so I made an appointment to go have an abortion. And then I went to a concert, and I was in the back of the car laying down, and I said to myself, oh, if someone hits the back of this car, that something could happen to the baby. And then I said to myself, well, what do you care about the baby? You already decided what you're going to do. You know, it's just kind of like thoughts going back and forth in my head. And I just got home and I just told my mom, I said, I can't do it. I said, I gotta have this baby. And so I did. I had my daughter, and that was the single greatest decision I have ever made in this lifetime. Hands down. Best decision ever. Yep. And so then I was in college at the time when my daughter was born. You know, I was I was a sophomore the spring she was born. So then I just doubled up on some classes and just really kicked butt. I look back now, I don't know. My girlfriend used to say, "You go 90 miles an hour. I don't know how you do everything you do," because I was raising this. And by the way, I had to tell her father, who I loved dearly. He was my first love, but he was having a problem getting himself a job, and he was going to a bar, and I didn't like it, and I wasn't going to raise my child around that. So I loved him so much, and it was so painful, but I had to tell him that he had to go. And then some years later, he calls me 3 weeks before he is found dead. And it had to do with his heart, and I'm not sure the details, but I'm sure it had to do with alcohol and drugs. So breaks my heart. Just breaks my heart. Anyway, but you know what? It breaks my heart, but at the same time, he has brought me so much closer to God, because when I've had tough times in my life, I've gone to the cemetery, which is blessedly in my town, where he's buried. And I just go there, and I would sit there and I would cry at the grave and talk to him. And it was really helppful. I did that, quite a few times over the years. Sometimes I would go to tell him good news. That's why I personally like the idea of at least some type of memorial space. Like when my yogi Mahesh passed away, I went and bought a tree. That was what I was just trying to think of, something I could do to honor him. So the other, let's see. So where am I in my little story about me? I feel like a little kid. It's all about me. So I had my daughter. I graduated college on time, which I am proud of, but that's obviously by the grace of God. And I began work as a special education teacher in the year 2000. I graduated in 99, and I did some substituting and other things and I was a teacher aide for a boy with Down syndrome. And that's how I ended up deciding to be a special ed teacher. I was actually an English major and a middle school ed major in my undergraduate work. So I ended up coming back to New Jersey. I wanted to stay. I was in Massachusetts. That's where I went to college, at a small women's college. Well, not anymore, but it was a small women's college. Now it's a co-ed university, but it was called Leslie College back then. Now it's Leslie University. And so I wanted to stay in Cambridge. I loved it there so much. It's such an amazing place. If you ever get the chance to visit Cambridge, Massachusetts, I highly recommend it. I used to walk my baby in a backpack through Harvard Yard and Harvard Square, and it's all the museums, and just really, I loved it there. But I knew that being a single mom, the prices up there, and I knew being a single mom, being able to support myself with my daughter, with the chances of that happening in that setting were pretty slim. So I came back to New Jersey. Plus, I felt that my daughter needed my mother in her life. I wanted them to be close to each other. My mother's, she's unique. She's unique. My mother is what people used to call a hippie. But she's, if I always say, if you're a true hippie, you're always a hippie. People have said to me, "Oh, I used to be a hippie." I'm like, no, there's no used to. If you're a hippie, it's a complete lifestyle changeover to completely different things. Oh, I'm kind of liking this so far. So I went to college, so I got that job, and then I was at uh I was at work one day at this high school, the place I taught before. I taught with Romeo. I was walking down the hall, and at this point, I had been sort of dealing with my emotions. Not sort of. I obviously had been dealing with emotional things through the use of food, and also binge drinking when I would drop my daughter off at my mother's house, and I would binge drink for the weekend. And something bad would always happen when I binge drank. I would black out almost every single time. And none of this seemed to be something I thought was a problem at the time. This is in my 20s, early 20s. Um, it was like all I would do is make sure my child was safe and then not take care of me at all. And what would have happened for her had something dangerous happened to me, during those times. But I had such a low self-esteem and self-worth. I was 300 pounds, and I was just feeling so bad about myself. I always had felt bad about myself, but it started to get really dark. And I went to work one day, and I'm walking down the hallway, and all of a sudden I felt my heart, like something happened with my heart, and it was going down my arm, started getting numb, and I thought I was having a heart attack. So I had to go to the school nurse. My mother had to pick me up, which I was embarrassed. I'm like, how come I don't have anybody besides my mother to pick me up? Instead of the attitude of like, thank God my mother's here to pick me up. And in a lot of ways, I just seen that immaturity that I had when I reflect upon myself during those times, just absolute immaturity. So I went to the doctor, and they said they did the EKG or whatever they usually do. And this is not uncommon. I've heard many people tell this story, that they had the thing in their heart and the numb arm, and then they go to the doctor, and the doctor comes out and says, it's not your heart. It's probably your nerves. So, I went ahead and got a therapist. I got a therapist. And I would continue to see that therapist on and off for 20 years. Not all things were bad with this therapist. I did gain some things, especially some wonderful parenting tactics and those kinds of things. Help when I was working as a special ed teacher, because this therapist had been a school psychologist. However, I have had to lean on Jesus more with this than anything I have ever needed to lean on him for, and that is to forgive this woman. And I have, for trying to convince me that my father sexually abused me when he never did. And she told me that I would lose my mind again, like I did in 2016, if I didn't live in the reality that my father had done that to me. Even though I had no recollection of it, I didn't think it was true. And guess what? I lost my mind anyway, even though I did what she told me to do. And that's where that's at. Yeah, man. That was some heavy shit I went through. I'll tell you right now, there is no way I got through that without Jesus. Absolutely none. Zero and zilch. Zippo. I'm gonna just keep going, because that's my testimony right there. Because that's a living hell to try to brainwash you into thinking something so evil about someone you love so much. And I'm so proud of myself, and God's proud of me too, because when my father did pass away, I went down and saw him and took care of him for a night in the hospital. Even though I really was totally convinced at this point, it'd been many 20 years of being convincing. And I talked to my mom about it not too long ago, and she just said, Laura, I knew that was never true. And my mother told me that she even told that damn psychologist, when I brought my mother into therapy one time, she told my mom that my mom told her, absolutely not. And so out of that, man, I didn't think that was going to come out in these videos. I definitely might not be putting these up. Who knows? Ooh. That was some crazy stuff, people. That's I just coming out of that too. You know what I mean? I was just coming out of that. July 2021 is when I stopped therapy with that lady. Now I got a new therapist named Billy. He's so awesome. He's an artist. He does collage. Yeah. I guess I'm doing what I always do with things, putting pressure on myself, thinking that this story I'm going to tell you has to be done in a certain way, and it doesn't. It just needs to flow naturally. And so, if that's what was meant to be said, I pray before all my live streams and videos. I pray to ask God to have the Holy Spirit fill me and to please have me say what He would have me say, and all that kind of stuff. And I find prayer to be so powerful that I just can't get enough of it. Truly, truly. All right. How many minutes have I been yakking? 25 minutes. I think that's probably good. I think it's probably good. 25 minutes. And we'll pick up where we left off, which was I started to see the therapist. And then after I started to see that therapist, and then what happened with my Toyota Echo. I'll pick up there next time. So thank you for spending some time with me. Bye.